to CEO Zones, where we have the Meet the Speaker series, and today we're honored to have Dr. Tracey Jones. Tracey and her family and I have been friends for more decades than she's been alive, because she's a young lady out there running her own company, an international speaker, has a consulting firm called T3 Solutions. She earned her doctorate after going to the Air Force Academy, so we have the Air Force in common, but you're a whole lot smarter because I went to 6th grade and the Air Force kind of took me. I did not get there the easy way. Then you worked something different than many international speakers, authors, publishers, people that are in your industry. You worked in industry before you came back to the business, and that's unusual, I'll say. So you have big corporate experience, you have continuous improvement experience, so when you're talking to an audience, you are part of the fixing the solution. You've been there, you've done it from many levels of the organization, from Northrup Grumman to the National Security Agency, which are pretty big deals. We're honored to have you, Tracey. It's really a fun time. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope I keep my emotions together today. So, your family is really important to me in many more ways than you know, and I know tens of thousands of people have been influenced by your family and your business. So what is tremendous leadership? What do you do?
Oh, Bill, thank you so much. And to our audience out there, Bill has been with my father, and my mother just loved him. And since I came back to run Tremendous Leadership, it was Tremendous Life Books. That's a doing business as executive books. Perhaps our old timers remember when it was executive books. But we are the leading provider of personal development material, leadership, motivation, sales, communication. We have a wholesale distribution where we support clients that want to buy books to give to their employees or team members or an event, so we're a wholesale distributor. We also publish. Charles has been publishing since he started the company back in 1967 with people like Ken Blanchard and Zig Ziglar and Brian Tracy and all those wonderful people that were in the personal development space. So we're still doing the publishing, and of course we have our own website where we have our own books we sell, as well as doing third-party distribution.
Great overview, because you do a whole lot of things. People should really go to tremendousleadership.com and just scan the ribbon across the top of all the different businesses, and I'll call them divisions, that you lead for your business.
Yeah.
So you're in the motivational space, you're a speaker, you've worked in corporate America, you came back to what I'll call the family business, you've grown it yourself now, I'm guessing around 15 years, I don't remember exactly how long.
16, coming up on 16.
16
Very
years,
good, Bill.
okay. And it's grown substantially since then, your footprint. But when you're doing all that and you're rubbing shoulders with other content partners we have here at CEO Zones, like a Mark Sanborn, people like that who again are deeply indebted to your father, because he came out and said, oh, you have a good story, let's publish that. And 40 years later, Mark Sanborn is known by just about everyone around the world. So those are the kind of relationships that we're really honored to kind of have you on today to keep that legacy going. But what motivates you? What gets you up in the morning?
I love it. Well, in addition to publishing and sharing life experiences, really learning is my number one thing. I think leadership is lifelong learning. I am an ardent student of life. The other thing that really gets me going is I'm a researcher at heart. You mentioned my doctoral research, but I love unpacking things. I love asking questions, which is why I have added coaching to my repertoire, because in addition, consulting is your troubleshooting. And I love that. I worked on fighter jets in the military. So I am a root cause analysis girl, and T3 Solutions is my coaching, training, and speaking company, and the 3 T's stand for targeted, transformative, and tremendous. And so I love really peeling back the layers and unpacking the issue and saying, okay, what is exactly, who are you, what do you want, and what resources do you need to get what you want. So I love that because I learned in the military and in operations as a project manager, if you don't clearly identify the problem, you can't solve it. And I think so much of us, we are chasing things and we haven't really taken the time to peel back and say, okay, what are we really looking at? And we just start jumping into activity, which a lot of us entrepreneurial, high D, people, it's a good thing. I always tell people, I'd rather throttle you back than try and have to push you. So really what gets me excited is knowledge, testing for truth, unpacking truth, really getting in and saying, okay, is that a real problem or is that an imagined problem? And really watching people suddenly look at themselves and go, there it is, that spark. I wrote a book called Spark, which is all about the theory of motivation and how there's two sides to motivation. There's the intrinsic part and the external part, and how I help people. I have a little taxonomy, SPARK is an acronym, about how we unpack what it is that we are put on this earth, the highest and best use of our time, and what do we need from this planet to get it done, because we're never meant to go do it alone. We're meant to be in fellowship and community. So that's what really excites me. I am as a project manager, I'm a troubleshooter at heart, so I love it when people are like, I have an issue. I'm like, yes. Let's get to unpacking it and solving it. So that's really, and of course, publishing. Everybody has a book. Everybody has been through something that they need to share with somebody else. And I love helping them share their knowledge and get it out. It gives them credibility. It gives them legacy. It gives them a sense of affirmation. It gives them a real sense of power.
You made my mind spark all over the place, and I'm a slow old man. But I remember, and I'm going to guess it was in the 80s, but Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, your father, and the president of Chick-fil-A, Jimmy Collins, were standing there, and you sparked a memory because one of them said to the other about Chick-fil-A operators, I'd rather tame wild Mustangs than kick old mules.
Yes.
And I'm not sure which one said it, but I was the young guy at the time, kind of standing right beside them, but not in with them. And I don't know who said it, but it burnt in my mind. So thank you for that. Back to T3 Solutions. I know our audience is CEOs and owners looking for keynote speakers, looking for material, everything that you do inside there, but you're a different kind of content partner. So just a second, do you have a geography that you serve from T3 Solutions? Do you have industries that you're specialized in when you do your consulting? Give us just a little bit of the funnel there.
Sure. Really, leadership is relatable and transferable across the board. Who I really speak a lot to is those in the financial services industry. Credit unions, banks, financial wealth planners, entrepreneurs, but because I'm in the military, I speak to military. Because I've been blue collar production management, base operation service contracts, I talk to them. So I will take the concepts, because truth is timeless and eternal, but it's how you contextualize it. And perhaps that's why I work so many different places, because I want to be able to go into a place and, it's the three-legged stool. You have the leader, you have the follower, but you also have a context. And each context is very unique. And so I really go in there and meet with the companies and say, okay, where are you at? What are you really good at? What's your pain point? And then take it from there. Because you just can't, in leadership, you can't do boilerplate because it's so situational and so contextual. So I work with, pretty much a lot of different, I work with an awful lot of nonprofits because, that's where my heart is, and they're out there serving people, and that's a way that I feel that I can give back to them. But any company, any organization that is open to being developed, because if you think you know it all, then you don't need to call me, and so if you have a hunger, I love helping you get the clarity of what you're looking for. I'm not you, so I don't know what it is, but I'm very, very good at unpacking things, and I'm also really funny. So when we do training and stuff, I tend to make it very pragmatic, very applicable. Everything you're going to get from me, you can immediately apply to your organization, because I can get you all pumped up, but if you walk away without the tools, it's incredibly frustrating. So again, the intrinsic and then the resources and means, I'm constantly researching and pulling new constructs or taxonomy or research about, here's what the prevailing literature says, how do you take that and apply that to your organization? So that's my sweet spot, the blend of poetry and plumbing.
Okay, poetry and plumbing. You warned us you were funny, so that's good.
Yes, yes, I'm very, yeah. Well, I mean, if you can't laugh at it, I mean, otherwise leadership is tough. And nobody can see us cry, so you better find a way to laugh at yourself, maintain a positive outlook. And Bill, you know this. 99 and 44, 100% is all about how you approach things. And so when we really help people get their eye on who you are, and the other thing I really share with organizations is followership. You know, leadership has been done to death. I reverse the lens and help leaders identify the followers that are going to resonate with their leadership style and fall in love with the mission. Because leadership is seen through a shared lens, and too much of what we got going on out there is everybody's looking at how the company should be run through their own lens. That's not leadership, and that's not an organization. So I really help them unpack. And again, nothing's right or wrong. It is what it is. Know thyself, know your followers, and know your mission. So I'm really into congruence, and also into, because I was in the military and I have that D side, if it's not working for you, we need to find a place for you to go.
Excellent. So I'm going to skip totally to a different direction. You grew up in an environment where your father knew whether you were a man, a woman, whatever it was, he was teaching life skills not just to the family, but to thousands of people weekly when he was out speaking. But how, so take all of that, all the people that you've rubbed shoulders with, the thousands of people that you've spoken to, the leaders you've worked with, the books you've read. What is success for Tracey going forward in 2025? What are you seeking as success for yourself?
Well, from a tactical perspective, right now it's redoing the website. I recently got a teaching award. I had never thought of myself as a teacher, and they're like, yeah, you are. And I'm like, who knew? So I'm adding teaching. I'm rolling out a new certified business leaders certification, certified professional business leaders designation. And that the beta's starting next week, so I'm going to be teaching, and I also am rolling out Spark in a much more coaching thing. Again, I've always been more consulting, training, teaching, and training, and now I'm morphing into this. Of course, publishing is still there. So from a tactical standpoint, it's pulling it all together so people get a clear vision of the different tentacles that come down from all things tremendous, and how I can serve as an advocate, a resource, or a connector with them. You know as well as I do, Bill, with the speakers, if not me, that's great. Then I want to help connect you. That's why Truett Cathy and my dad were so great. If they couldn't be the one, they're going to connect you with who they need to. I don't know everything, but I do know everybody. And that's really powerful to help network and dial people into the right thing. So really for me, it's getting increased clarity on that. 16 years has been a wonderful opportunity to really hone my voice. You know, you come up as a leader and you know what you know, and you look around and you read different things. But it's such a beautiful stage of life, and to be able to look back and say, I'm completely comfortable in who I am. And I think when you get to that point, you really get clarity on what beacon you're sending out and get a lot more people resonating with you. So I'm really excited to branch out into the coaching and the teaching more.
Okay. That's interesting. Do you have any big trips planned? I know that you travel, you and your husband traveled recently, a big trip. So anything coming up?
Oh, we do. Usually we try and do at least one overseas biblical trip where we're going walking where Paul walked or Jesus walked, or Peter, all the great people, my heroes of the faith. We haven't scheduled one. Maybe 7 churches of the Revelation. I'd love to go do that. But actually, it's been a really busy year of travel, and my schedule's clear right now. So I may take a couple-month little sabbatical and just kind of draw back and reflect. But no overseas travel on the book right now. A lot stateside, but my passport's ready to go, and I have lived all over the world, and I love connecting in person with my fellow citizens. So
excellent. So you mentioned your book, The Spark. Can you unpack that just a little bit more for us? What would we learn from it? How should we share it once we learn it? Kind of give us the full picture, and that might help you with what you're doing for next year for Spark. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's SPARK is the acronym SPARK, and again, just like when I talk about leadership and followership, they're two sides of the same coin, light and dark, good and evil. So life has this duality to it, and so we have this intrinsic quality and the extrinsic. So the S and the P stand for singularity and persistence. I don't know what you're put on this earth to do, but Spark gives you a construct so you can help unpack that. I'm not trying to mold you to become anything other than unfold you to find out what exactly do you want, whether that's in your personal life, whether that's in your as an entrepreneur, or you're leading an organization, helping you uncover your most authentic leadership style. And then persistence is you just got to do the work. You got to stay strong. You got to stay healthy. You got to stay fed. You got to stay connected. So I really work with people to say, this is what you bring to the table. You know, Bill, with publishing, people say, well, should I write a book? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm not you. That's between you and God. But I will help them go through the process of what it is. Because I'm not my dad. You're not me. I'm not you. You do you. And it's a beautiful joy when you finally realize and give people the freedom and the permission and the tools to do it. The ARK. So now you know who you are, you know what you want. Now you got to have the means or the resources to get it. So A stands for advocates. You're an advocate, Bill. You want my success even more than I want it. These are your angels on earth that just are put here to bless you. So find them and tell them exactly what you need and authorize them to act on your behalf. A lot of times we get very nervous about this, imposter syndrome, or I should be able to figure this out. Nonsense. I wasted 10 years trying to figure it out when people were just standing there waiting to help me. I don't do that kind of, that was ego, that was nonsense. R stands for resources, whether it's your website, whether it's finances, whether it's collaborations. But the thing I really drill down on that is the people. You can't get it right without the right people. And so I really help, that's where followership comes in. Based on what you feel you're doing, how do you bring the greatest people in that are going to pick up on your style? And you know what? I have had leaders that I have really resonated with, and I have ones that I could care less to work with again. That's the same thing with me. I got to look for people that there's that value congruence and missional alignment. And then K, of course, is knowledge. We never stop learning. Up until Charles read a book like the breath before he passed. So life is really learning. We're constantly in this state of transformation, recalibration, sanctification. You know how it goes. So it's just exciting. And you know, Bill, we're publishing people's books in their 90s. I coach clients in their 80s. And it's incredible to see, because the older you get and the more you learn, the more secure you get and you feel free to serve. And it's a beautiful, and you know, if we take care of ourselves and the Lord tarries, we're all going to make it to 100. So, I mean, I'm 61, so I want to finish the race strong. And so we really work with people on that, and it's so beautiful to see how many people still have that drive and that hunger and that passion to just continue to be free to serve and pour into the world. So that's the space I'm in, and it's tough to go to sleep at night because it's very exciting. It's very exciting. But I sleep well, and then I get up ready to go.
Excellent. You reminded me of another "don't retire, refire" from your father.
Yes.
At the time, I wasn't thinking of retiring. I was still trying to figure out what am I going to do. But now I'm at that point where I retired, and CEO Zones is part of my retirement, if you will. But we're refiring and trying to figure out how we can serve others together. That's kind of my newest thought, but we're going to get there. So in your speaking world, going back to that, I happen to know, you didn't mention this, but you also are pretty involved in some women's networks or promoting women in business. Can you give us a little bit of your passion there?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that I grew up, you talked about my father, and I'm the fifth out of six, and he would take me speaking everywhere. So I am the most like him genetically, from a temperament wise. I'm Charles with long hair, okay, so to speak. And so I got him, as some of my other brothers and sisters were more the temperament and the personality of my mother, but I was my father's daughter, okay? And so he would take me to all these meetings and stuff from a little tiny girl. And I don't care if I was the only female in the room, I was just there. And he just let me know, he never made a difference like I was something different. We were all there to lead and serve. So when all this gender stuff started coming up, I'm like, what is that about? And I realized, man, I grew up in a really wild setting where that was never called out, never called out. And then I went into the military where we're all brothers and sisters in arms. So that, again, reinforced this whole comrades, soldiers, together, first and foremost. So I always grew up in organizations and watching people that never called out because of that. So when I meet women and they did not have this same efficacy, that people let them know, no, women, that's just a thing, you know what I'm saying? And it's a beautiful thing. And Charles would always tell me that. He's like, Tracey, you are so blessed as a woman because you're going to see things that we men miss. So I had this constant pouring into me of him. Even though he was your quintessential alpha male, he also understood that I was the quintessential alpha female. And that's a beautiful thing when we all get together. And so he just really, really showed me that. So working with women, just letting them know, get that seat at the table, just build their courage, build their voice, kind of unpack some of the things that they've been told that are lies, and help them own the self-deception that a lot of people will not relinquish. Bill, a lot of people love to hold that victim thing. And it's like, guys, you either move forward, and nobody grew up from a crappier upbringing than Charles, even though he was a man. Horrible abuse, flunked out of school in the 8th grade, but that was never an excuse for where he was going. It was something in the past. So, and he never ever made an excuse. Well, if I would have finished college, if I would have had money, is never an excuse. So when I go to people, I just say, okay, it is what it is. My life wasn't perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. But where are you and where do you want to go? And then we just start from there. And it's really, it's exciting. And I find the women I work with, they just are out there. They want to be leaders, not women leaders, just leaders, first and foremost. A woman who happens to be a leader who happens to be a woman. And so that's what we really go on, because if you make something that you can't control, something genetic, a part of your identity, I think that's weird, because none of us can control certain things. And so you put yourself in this exclusive club that somebody else can't get into. So, I love speaking to women's groups, but it will never just be about women. A man could sit in there and be like, you know what, she's talking to me too.
Excellent. Okay. So you have another book called Beyond Tremendous. What are you trying to unpack there in that book? What's that about?
Well, it's kind of funny, Bill, when you go and you are working in the shadows of a great, which everybody really is. If you've had a great leader ahead of you, it's tough, because you're like, oh my gosh. And I heard this joke this past week, and the guy said, hey, he was sharing about he died and went to heaven. And he said, listen, St. Peter, when you call everybody together, I want you to tell them that I survived the Agnes flood of 72 in Harrisburg. I survived it. And St. Peter goes, okay, I'll get everybody together. And so the guy goes to give his speech, and he says to St. Peter, did you gather everybody together? And St. Peter goes, yes, I did. But just to let you know, there's a guy named Noah in the audience. Okay? So it's one of those things, when I talk about where I've been, I'm like, okay. But there are so many people that have done just unbelievable things that I'm standing on their shoulders. So I'm always very much aware of that. So that is what Beyond Tremendous was about. How do you take Tremendous and keep the DNA, but roll it into Tremendous 2.0? So I'm very much, I look at Elijah and Elijah. One was the mentee, one was the mentor. No one tried to replicate somebody else. We should never try to do that. But yet we keep the DNA, but we go off in our own zone of gifting. And so that's really what Beyond Tremendous is about, because I always had a piece that I never was going to try and replicate my father, nor did I want to. And honestly, Bill, that's why I went and got all my Fortune 100, military. I went to all the industries he had not, because I had grown up seeing all the entrepreneurial, the sales, the life insurance, the real estate, all that stuff. So I wanted to flesh out and see the other side of the world, more the process, less the entrepreneurial, so I could be able to relate to both sides of that. So, I took the best that he had to offer, but as he shook my hand 2 days before he died, and I said, I'm coming back to run the business. That was the extent of our succession planning. And he says, I know you'll take it places I never could. And that was all I needed. And that's my prayer and my hope.
Well, I know there was at least 10 men that had been praying a year before that you would say that. So, because he made it very clear what he wanted. He didn't have any inhibitions. he knew what he wanted, and whether you knew it yet or not, he knew.
I didn't. And to the audience out there, he never told me, because he knew it had to be my decision.
Yep.
And so Charles was very controlling. From 18 on under, he was tough. So at 18, I'm out of here. So that's good. Don't make kids too comfortable. But he never told me, because he knew I was off doing all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And he never said, would you come back? I had to be the one to say, I'm coming back. And he squeezed my hand, because he knew it had to be something I wanted. Because what child wouldn't say yes to their father on their deathbed? But he knew when I came back with all the headaches and the heartaches of running a business, he knew if it wasn't my decision, I would be, why did I make this decision? I left corporate America. And so it was very smart.
Well, not only that, but he knew he had positioned it for over a year with prayer. So you were stuck. He knew you were going to get stuck. He knew the outcome. It was just what the timing was, right? So
isn't that so true? And that's so true. And I'm glad you said that with Spark. We know it's just the timing, and that's the hardest part. I think we know. Like people are like, what's going on with the world? I know exactly what's going to happen. The only question is on the timing. So that's the one thing. How do you stay pushing forward, prayed up, motivated, and growing until it happens?
If it should, yep, and it should. So dogs are an important part of your life. Tell us a little bit about the dogs. You have some books about dogs. You have a different venue. So pets maybe is a better way to go. How about pets?
Well, for the listeners out there, Tremendous Leadership happens to publish your children's books. And so we've got bloodhounds, we've got cats. I have another book coming out next month with the Scottish Highland cattle. So we really love a Tibetan Terrier. So my first book, when I came back, about 5 years after I was back, everybody's like, well, you got to publish a book. And I'm like, why should I publish a book? I mean, I'm publishing people's books. These people are real leaders. So I had a dog, Mr. Blue, an Australian Shepherd, and I just looked at him and I'm like, well, Mr. Blue's going to write the book. And it's called True Blue Leadership. And it's just a short, sweet little book. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. Herding isn't leading. Old dog can learn new tricks. Let the tail wag the dog. Just dogisms about leadership. So, because I thought, well, nobody's not going to like a book written by a dog. And so then we started, everybody's like, well, I want my kid to read it. And I said, well, it's not really a kid's book. And I'm like, but why couldn't it be a kid's book? So then we made it into a children's book and all different lessons, and was going into elementary schools and things like that, and camps. And then came Ruby Red, and she had a book. She was a very broken dog that was scheduled to be euthanized. And I looked at her and I'm like, I cannot believe I rescued this dog. She's nuts. And I thought, and God said to me, yeah, so are you. So you guys take a year and unpack all your baggage together, and at the end of that year, if it doesn't work out, you can say goodbye. And I mean, and so her book, Saucy Aussie Living, is us unpacking past hurt. We were living in our own nonsense, and working with her, you know, she was a blessing to me. And then Indigo, and then Roscoe, and then Goliath, and then Prince William of Orange, my cat, for us cat lovers out there. And now I have 2 more Australian Shepherds. They're a 1.5 year old, twins, Tanzanite and Sapphire, and I'm working on another children's book with them. So, yeah, animals are a wonderful, wonderful muse, and people love them.
Okay. So here comes a trick question. I told you I wouldn't have any, but as I'm thinking about it, this is going to be probably more difficult to answer. Out of all the books that you've read, what are your favorites? And they could be from any venue, any shelf, we'll say.
All right,
As
hang
your
on.
father taught me, my library's over my left shoulder. I don't think it's in the camera, but my library's 20, 30 feet that way. And I have everything in sections and subjects. But so I rambled on. Let's hear them.
Okay, I will say, and you will gather kind of the type of books I love. First of all, Henry Cloud. Dr. Henry Cloud is one of my favorite authors.
Okay.
Anything by him. The two that I read the most are Necessary Endings and Boundaries. Henry Cloud is very much about, you know, you're going to have some good people and you're going to have some bad people. And it's as much a job of the leader to call out the bad as it is to nourish the good. And that's tough for us as leaders. We deal with that. Another book that I loved, and I just saw him again, I emceed a prayer breakfast, Peter Greer's book, Mission Drift. And it's all about, you got to be so clear. And that's my thing. I'm so protective of the tremendous leadership DNA. You know, well, why don't you publish this? Or why don't you speak on this? Or why? No. And I love this, Bill, because the more niche you go, the more you grow. You got to know who you are, exactly who you are. I adore C.S. Lewis. Anything by C.S. Lewis. I have The Problem of Pain by my bed. I read that pretty much every night. The other books I read is Erwin Lutzer, 1 Minute After You Die, and he has a new book that came out, The Eclipse of God. So anything that's talking about spirituality, culture, and our deviation from the truth and our core founding principles is very much, you know, drawing history and faith and stuff like that together. So those are just a couple of them.
Okay. That was pretty good. Now, Peter Greer, that would be the same Peter Greer from Lancaster, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay, just
Hope
making
International,
sure.
Peter Greer. And he has another book that just came out. I just got a copy of it, Leaders Who Pray, or Leaders with Prayer. So, it's. I just remember reading that book and understanding, you know, we all want to be innovative, you want to be creative, you want to be disruptive, but you cannot change your DNA. Like, society tries to tell you can, but you cannot. Your DNA is your DNA. And you can do anything else you want, but your root and your core, your values and your vision, your calling, your gifting, you still are you. So that book really influenced me on, man, just one little tiny drift every year, and pretty soon you'll be something you don't even recognize. And there are so many organizations out there like that.
Yeah.
We don't want to be that. And respect the founder. I'm very much, you know, having been in the military, if I wanted to do something completely different than my father's legacy, I have an obligation and responsibility to close this down and do my own thing. I never liked the tearing down from within. And that's why when I go to speak to organizations, I work on organizational purity. You know what I'm saying? We all have to be rowing in the same direction. If you don't like this, you go start your own company. Because that, you know, united we stand, divided we fall. You have to all be in value congruence for this to work. And that's not a dirty thing. That's not being non-tolerant or non-diverse. I mean, we all got to be singing off the same sheet of music, otherwise it's not going to work.
All right. We're getting near the end of this episode of Meet the Speaker. We're looking for CEOs and business owners who are looking for speakers to either coach them personally or talk to their organization. You have your own Triple T solutions, which I did not know what Triple T stood for. So targeting, transforming, and tremendous.
Yep.
Makes total sense now that I did that, now that I see that, now that you tell me that. The way to contact you, to hire you, would be to go to tremendousleadership.com.
Correct. Or TraceyCJones.com. Either one. They both come to me. And the E, Tracey has an E.
Okay, Tracey has an E. And if you forget all of that and you see our logo on this video or podcast, you'll see CEO Zones, Tracey Jones. Dr. Tracey Jones is a content partner. She has her own page on our website. She's a member of the app where CEOs and business owners come together in a community and to their app. And I think you're pretty easy to find, quite frankly. You're very well known. I did a Wikipedia on you this morning, and it was very enlightening to me. I didn't know about.
Wow.
I had missed the NSA. It didn't stick in my head, and when I was on your own website looking for what are your books, what's the difference between these two books, which we didn't get into, but those types of things. And just a note as we close, so we know how to get a hold of Tracey. When your father, I was 1982, so I was maybe late 20s, early 30s. Your father sat me down in his, I'll call it chair, there, and we were in the Lincoln Library building, I'll call it. And he says, Bill, I want you to read a page of Oswald Chambers to me. And that is how I got to know Oswald Chambers, because every time I would see him, he'd say, this is a guy named Spurgeon you've never heard of. You should read him. Mm-hmm. This is a guy named Oswald Chambers who I now read every morning. But so thank you so much for you and your family. Please say hi to your brothers and sisters. And my goodness, make it a tremendous month.
Thank you, Bill. You as well.